The flight landed with a soft jolt at 1:10 p.m., and my phone buzzed in my trembling hand. "Can someone pick me up?" I typed in the family group chat 20 minutes ago. No reply. Just the cold glow of that unanswered message. 3 weeks ago, I was lying in a sterile hospital bed in Boston, surrendering my life to the hands of surgeons who gave me a 50% chance to see another season, a risky cardiac reconstruction. Experimental, expensive, and lonely. I told my family it was a small heart procedure. I couldn't bear to worry them. Or maybe I knew. They wouldn't worry anyway. Finally, my phone pinged. "Busy day, Mom. Just grab a ride," my daughter-in-law Clara wrote. Then my son Ethan added, "You should plan these things better, Mom." Something inside me cracked. Not my newly reinforced heart, but something far more fragile. I'd once been their anchor. After losing my husband at 48, I helped Ethan through law school, cared for his twins, and even loaned them part of my retirement to buy their mansion in the Heights. My reward? A ride suggestion. I typed, "Okay." Cheerful, simple, final. But behind that tiny smiley face was a decision I hadn't yet admitted to myself. I was done being an afterthought. As the crowd around me surged toward baggage claim, I opened another chat. One with Dr. Adrian Vaughn, the visionary heart specialist who had overseen my case before the surgery moved to Boston. A man known for rebuilding not just hearts, but lives. He'd once said, "A strong heart begins with the will to live for yourself." I typed, "Hi, Adrian. I just landed back in Chicago. Don't worry, I'll figure out transportation. Hope your conference in Geneva went well." He'd be thousands of miles away by now. But before I could even put my phone away, it rang. "Margaret?" His warm, confident tone made my breath catch. "Doctor." "Adrian," he corrected. "Where are you exactly?" "At Terminal 2, but you're..." "In Chicago, yes. Landed an hour ago. I can have my driver pick you up right now." "Adrian? No, I can't possibly." "Margaret," he said, calm but commanding. "You've just survived major surgery. Let me do this. No arguments." 15 minutes later, a deep black Rolls-Royce glided up to the curb. A uniformed driver stepped out, addressing me by name. And then Adrian appeared, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed in a navy coat. His presence made the noise of the airport fade to silence. "I was worried about you," he said softly, taking my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I should have said something light, something polite. But all that came out was a trembling whisper. "They didn't come." His eyes softened. "Then I'm glad I did." He guided me into the warmth of the car, the leather wrapping around me like safety itself. And as the rolls pulled away, I caught my reflection in the tinted glass. Pale, fragile, but alive. Alive enough to wonder why a man like Adrian Vaughn, a world-renowned philanthropic millionaire with everything, cared enough to show up for someone like me. I had no idea then that this small act of kindness was about to turn my life, and my family's, completely upside down. The city blurred past the tinted windows as the Rolls-Royce drifted through afternoon traffic, silent except for the low hum of the engine. I hadn't been inside a car that elegant in my life. The seats smelled faintly of cedar and leather, expensive, comforting, unreal. Dr. Adrian Vaughn sat across from me, phone on silent, his focus entirely on me. I noticed the faint scar near his temple, the silver at his temples that looked deliberate rather than aged. "How was the procedure?" he asked gently, though his eyes already read the answer in my posture. "Successful," they said, "at least for now." "For now?" he repeated quietly. "I suppose after years of giving everything to others, I'm just not used to someone caring what happens next." He didn't respond right away, just reached for the small control panel beside him. "Tea or sparkling water?" "Tea," I said automatically. A compartment opened between us, releasing a soft whiff of jasmine. Within seconds, a steaming cup appeared, as if summoned by magic. "You make this look easy," I murmured. "I make time for things that matter," he replied. "You matter, Margaret." His words landed in my chest with a strange ache. Not romantic, not yet. Just human warmth in a place that had long gone cold. When we reached my quiet suburban street, I felt a pang of embarrassment. My little house, with its fading paint and thrift store curtains, looked so small compared to his world. But Adrian didn't flinch. He studied the garden gnome by my walkway, as though it were an artifact in a museum. "I like your space," he said sincerely. "It feels lived in, peaceful." Inside, I apologized for the clutter. The old photographs, the half-read books, the medical bills piled like confessions on the table. He walked past them without judgment, taking in the framed photo of my late husband, Daniel, and our son Ethan as a child. "Your husband?" he asked softly. "Yes," I said. "Gone almost 20 years now." Adrian nodded. "Then you already know what it's like to lose part of your heart and keep walking anyway. That's strength most people can't comprehend." The words made my throat tighten. I hadn't cried in years, not properly. But something about his tone, his presence, loosened that iron grip I'd kept on my emotions. While I composed myself, he moved around the kitchen like he belonged there, opening cabinets until he found mugs and a kettle. "I'll make us proper tea," he said. "None of that hospital brew they call green." I couldn't help but laugh, the sound rusty, but real. As the kettle whistled, I noticed his phone light up with missed calls. Important names flashed across the screen. Investors, board members, some European foundation. "You should take that," I said. He shook his head. "They can wait. I'm off duty today." For a long moment, we sat in comfortable silence. He asked gentle questions about my recovery, my plans, whether I had help at home. When I told him no, that my family was busy, he simply said, "Then they don't know what they're missing." That night, after he left, leaving behind fresh fruit, vitamins, and a promise to check on me in the morning, my phone began buzzing again. 37 missed calls. From Ethan, from Clara, and a message that made my stomach twist. "Mom, we saw that post." Are you really with Adrian Vaughn?" "Post?" Confused, I opened my social feed. And froze. There it was, a photo Adrian had shared just an hour earlier. Me, pale but smiling, stepping out of his Rolls Royce with his hand steady at my back. The caption read, "Honored to help my friend Margaret home after her courageous recovery. Strength is not measured by age but by spirit." It already had thousands of likes. And a comment, from Clara. "Dr. Vaughn, we've been trying to reach you about the Luminar Heart Project for months." I sat in stunned silence, the glow of the phone reflecting off my teacup. They didn't care that I'd survived. They cared who drove me home. Outside, the Rolls Royce disappeared down the street. Inside, my phone began to ring again. But this time, I didn't answer. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I was choosing myself. The next evening, I stood before my bedroom mirror, nervous in a way I hadn't felt in decades. The black dress I'd chosen was simple, elegant, but far from extravagant. I told myself it was just dinner, just gratitude, just closure. But my heart didn't believe that. At precisely 7, a sleek black Bentley rolled into my driveway, the same one from the airport. The driver, a refined man named Lucas, greeted me with a polite bow. "Dr. Vaughn asked me to ensure you're comfortable, Mrs. Hale." Mrs. Hale. I'd almost forgotten my late husband's name. Hearing it now, spoken with such formality, felt strange, like an echo of another life. Inside the Bentley, soft jazz played through hidden speakers. Adrian sat waiting, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that managed to look both effortless and commanding. He rose as I entered, his smile warm, but tinged with something unreadable. "Margaret," he said, taking my hand gently, "you look radiant." "I think that's just the lighting," I murmured, blushing. "Then I'll make sure every room I enter has this lighting," he said lightly. And I couldn't help but laugh. As we drove into the city, he pointed out landmarks, the art district, the new medical research tower he helped fund, the restaurant he'd chosen, the Ariston, a place known for privacy and Michelin stars. The host greeted him like royalty, guiding us to a corner table with soft golden light and a panoramic view of the skyline. The city glittered below like a necklace of diamonds. I didn't realize you owned this place," I said, half joking. He smiled. "Technically, a foundation I support does. I prefer to invest in spaces where conversation feels safe." When the waiter appeared, Adrian ordered for both of us. Grilled sea bass, asparagus, and a dessert. Light enough for post-surgery. His tone made it sound like he'd memorized every restriction in my recovery plan. "Still the doctor, I see," I teased. "Always," he said. "But tonight I'm more interested in you than your heart rate." His gaze held mine, steady, unhurried, searching. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not as a patient, not as a mother, Just me. So, I said softly, you're a doctor, a philanthropist, and apparently part owner of fine dining establishments. Tell me, Dr. Vaughn, when do you have time to breathe? When I'm around people who remind me why I started, he said. People who don't want anything from me but honesty. That landed heavier than I expected. I looked down at my plate, appetite suddenly fading. You think I'm one of those people? I know you are, he said simply. You've given your entire life without expecting repayment. That's rare. The sincerity in his voice undid me. I felt the sting of tears, the kind I hadn't shed since Daniel S.'s funeral. You shouldn't say things like that, I whispered. Why not? Because people like you don't say things like that to people like me. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low, deliberate. Maybe you don't see it yet, Margaret, but you're not invisible. Not anymore. Before I could respond, a faint buzz came from his phone. He checked it briefly, and I saw the name flash across the screen, Clara Hale. The spell broke. Is everything all right? I asked. His brow furrowed slightly. It seems your daughter-in-law is quite persistent. She's emailed my foundation 5 times this afternoon. Something about Luminar's new cardio drug. I groaned inwardly. I'm so sorry. She's determined, he chuckled softly. Determined is one word for it. Then, more gently, I didn't bring you here to talk business, but it seems business keeps chasing us. I'll speak to her, I promised. No, he said firmly. Let me handle it. The conversation shifted, back to books, music, travel. He told me about his years building medical startups from scratch, how he turned one surgical innovation into a billion-dollar enterprise and used the profits to fund clinics for those who couldn't afford care. I lost someone once, he said quietly, fingers tracing the stem of his glass. Before all the money, before the success. And I swore if I ever got another chance to help someone, really help, I'd do it without hesitation. I swallowed hard. You're doing it again, aren't you? Maybe, he said. Or maybe I just enjoy your company. After dinner, he walked me to the car himself, refusing to let Lucas do it. The night air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. As we reached my door, he turned to me. Margaret, may I be honest? Please. When I saw you at that airport, something told me your story wasn't finished yet. I'd like to see where it leads. I couldn't find the right words, so I just nodded. He smiled faintly, then pressed a soft kiss to my cheek. Brief, respectful, but electric. Get some rest, he murmured. And tell your family they don't need to contact me again. I'm perfectly capable of deciding who I spend my time with. That night, I sat by my window long after the Bentley disappeared into the distance. My hands still tingled where his lips had brushed my skin. For years, I'd been fading quietly into the background of my own life. But now, I wasn't sure if I wanted quiet anymore. Somewhere between the jasmine tea and that kiss, something inside me had begun to stir. Something my heart surgery hadn't repaired, but maybe Adrian could. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting soft streaks across my living room. I was still sipping the herbal tea Adrian had left me when the doorbell rang. Sharp, impatient, insistent. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Opening the door, I found Ethan and Clara on my porch, both still in their work clothes, their faces polished but tense. Mom, Ethan said, feigning relief. We've been trying to reach you for hours. I know, I replied calmly. I needed rest. Doctor's orders. Clara's eyes flicked around the entryway, scanning every corner like she was searching for a secret. So, she said brightly, you and Dr. Adrian Vaughn. That photo's gone viral. Everyone at Luminar is talking about it. Of course she'd mentioned the company before my health. I gestured toward the couch. Have a seat. I'm sure you didn't drive across town just to discuss my recovery. Ethan sat, running a hand through his hair. Mom, we didn't know your surgery was that serious. Why didn't you tell us? I did, I said softly. You just didn't listen. He frowned, guilt flickering across his face, but Clara jumped in before he could respond. Dr. Vaughn is the face of the HeartLife Foundation, she said, leaning forward. He's been on Forbes, CNN. He's worth over $200 million. You never told us you knew him personally. The way she said it, like I'd been hiding a gold mine. I sipped my tea and studied her carefully. He was my consulting physician before the surgery. He became a friend. Clara's tone sharpened. A friend? The man drives a Rolls Royce and posts about you on social media. That's not friend behavior. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Clara. No, Ethan, she pressed on. Do you know what his endorsement could mean for Luminar's new cardiac program? One word from him could double our funding. And there it was. The truth. Plain and unvarnished. You didn't come here to check on me, I said quietly. You came because a powerful man helped me, and you see an opportunity. Clara's cheeks flushed. That's not fair, Margaret. It's very fair, I cut in. I spent years watching your children, cooking your meals, helping pay your mortgage. But the first time a man of influence notices me, you come running. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it again. The silence stretched, thick and brittle. Finally, Clara forced a smile, all practiced charm and corporate gloss. Look, I just think it's wonderful that Dr. Vaughn is taking such an interest in you. Maybe, when you're feeling up to it, you could introduce us properly. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want me to arrange a business meeting with the man who carried my suitcase to the car after open-heart surgery? She blinked. Well, when you put it like that, that's exactly how I put it, I said, because that's exactly what happened. Ethan finally found his voice. Mom, you're overreacting. Clara she just sees a door, I interrupted, and she's hoping I'll open it for her. The color drained from Clara's face, replaced by a flash of irritation. You don't understand, Margaret. Luminar's future depends on this. If I can secure Vaughn's partnership, it changes everything. For all of us. For all of us? I repeated softly. Or just for you? Her silence was answer enough. Before either could speak again, my phone buzzed on the table. Adrian's name glowed on the screen. Clara's eyes darted to it like a hawk spotting prey. Oh, go on, she said with forced cheerfulness. Answer it. Maybe he wants to discuss something. I let the phone ring until it stopped. Then I turned it face down and smiled faintly. If it's important, he'll call back. But not for what you think. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. Mom, we just want what's best for you. No, I said, standing slowly. You want what's convenient for you. The silence after that was heavy enough to fill the room. Clara straightened, her professional smile flickering back into place. We'll talk again soon, she said coolly, tugging Ethan toward the door. When the door clicked shut, I finally looked at my phone. One new message from Adrian. I hope you're resting. Dinner tomorrow? Nothing fancy, just conversation. My driver will pick you up at 7. I traced the words with my fingertip, my pulse quickening. Outside, the wind stirred the trees. Inside, I realized something profound. I'd spent my life saving everyone else. Maybe at last, it was time to save myself. The next morning arrived far too soon. I'd barely slept. My mind kept replaying the night. Adrian's quiet confidence, the brush of his lips on my cheek, the way the city lights had reflected in his eyes like they belonged there. But peace never lasts long in my world. By 8 a.m., the doorbell rang. When I opened it, Clara stood there, flawless as always, her tailored cream coat and corporate smile masking whatever storm brewed underneath. She held a tray of overpriced lattes and a pink box from some artisanal bakery. Cranberry scones, she said brightly. Your favorite. I stepped aside, gesturing for her to come in. You didn't need to bring anything. Oh, nonsense, she said, breezing into the kitchen like she owned it. Family breakfasts are good for the soul. That was her way of saying this conversation won't be pleasant. We sat across from each other, the air between us thick with politeness. Finally, she said, You look rested. I take it your evening went well? Her tone was sweet, but her eyes were sharp. Yes, I said simply. It was pleasant. With Dr. Adrian Vaughn? She added, emphasizing his name as though it were sacred. I smiled faintly. Yes. Her jaw tightened. Mom, Margaret, I think we should be honest with each other. Luminar's next big project is everything to my career. I've been trying to connect with Dr. Vaughn's foundation for over 6 months, but he's impossible to reach. Now suddenly he's having dinner with you. I leaned back, folding my hands. And that's a problem? Not a problem, she said quickly. An opportunity. There it was. That familiar gleam of ambition. I'd seen it in her since the first day Ethan brought her home. I'm not your messenger, Clara, I said quietly. I'm not asking you to be, she replied, her tone silky. But imagine how good it would look. Our family and his foundation collaborating. You'd be helping your son's future too. I stared at her for a long moment. I almost died last month, Clara. I lay in a hospital bed alone, wondering if my family even cared. And now the only thing you want to talk about is networking. Her smile faltered. That's unfair. What's unfair? I said, my voice rising slightly. Is realizing the only time my phone rings is when someone wants something. Even she couldn't spin that one. She glanced at her coffee, then back at me. Look, I'm sorry for how it all came across. We were worried. Were you? I interrupted softly. Or were you just embarrassed that your mother-in-law was trending online with a man worth millions? That stung. Her eyes hardened, but she tried to recover. Margaret, I just think you're being naive. Dr. Vaughn isn't an ordinary man. He's human, I finished, and kind. Two things money can't fake. Her lips pressed together in frustration. You're acting like this is something romantic. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Clara leaned forward, voice lowering. You do realize how this looks, right? A man like him, with you, people will talk. I met her gaze evenly. Let them. For a moment, she looked almost unsettled, as if she'd glimpsed a version of me she didn't recognize. Then she switched tactics. At least tell me what he said about Luminar. Did he mention our product? Anything about the partnership proposal? That was when I realized something crucial. She wasn't just desperate. She was scared. Adrian told me your company, trials aren't as promising as your press releases claim, I said calmly. He believes Luminar needs more research, not more marketing. Her face drained of color. He said that? Among other things, I said, sipping my tea. He knows about your emails, all 17 of them. She froze. The confidence cracked, revealing something raw underneath. He told you that? Yes. For a heartbeat, she was silent. Then anger replaced fear. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've jeopardized my entire professional reputation. I've spent years building connections, and now you've had dinner, I interrupted. That's all I did. Maybe you should consider why that frightens you so much. She pushed her chair back sharply. You don't understand how the world works. Oh, I do, I said softly. I just stopped letting it work against me. Her mask slipped, just for a moment, and I saw something almost like hurt. You really think he cares about you? He's a billionaire, Margaret. You. I smiled gently. Maybe that's exactly why he cares. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She gathered her purse, her composure, and what little dignity she had left. I hope you know what you're doing, she said. Because if this goes wrong, it won't just affect you. It'll affect all of us. When she was gone, I stood in my quiet kitchen, surrounded by the faint scent of coffee and tension. My phone buzzed. Adrian. Good morning, Margaret. The board's hosting a charity gala this Saturday for cardiac research. I'd like you to come, as my guest. Lucas will arrange everything. I read the message twice. Then again, public, formal, impossible to misinterpret. A flutter rose in my chest, part fear, part excitement, part something I hadn't felt since I was a young woman. I typed my reply slowly, hands trembling. I'd be honored to attend. Then, before setting my phone down, I whispered to no one in particular. This time they'll see me. All of them. The evening of the Heart Life Foundation Gala arrived like a dream wrapped in nerves. My house looked as though a boutique had exploded inside it. Dresses, shoes, jewelry boxes, all courtesy of Adrian's driver, Lucas, and a personal stylist he'd sent that morning. Dr. Vaughn wanted you to feel extraordinary. The stylist, a cheerful woman named Nora, had said, while fastening a delicate emerald pendant around my neck. He insisted this color brings out your strength. Strength. A word I hadn't associated with myself in a long time. When the car arrived, I barely recognized my reflection in the hallway mirror. The emerald gown shimmered softly as I moved, elegant without excess. My silver hair was swept into a graceful updo, my makeup light but confident. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel invisible. Lucas opened the Bentley door, and there he was, Adrian Vaughn, in a black tuxedo, standing like he'd stepped from the cover of Fortune. The world might have seen him as a billionaire philanthropist, but tonight, under the soft city lights, he looked simply human. Margaret, he said, eyes warm, voice low, you look breathtaking. And you look like trouble, I teased, unable to help myself. He laughed, that deep, effortless sound that somehow made me feel safe. Only the good kind, I promise. The gala was held at the Grand Meridian Hotel, the kind of place where chandeliers cost more than my entire home. Photographers lined the red carpet, flashes bursting like fireworks. "Adrian, who's your guest?" one called out. He didn't hesitate. "A dear friend," he said, placing a hand gently at my back. "Someone with more courage than anyone I've ever met." That statement alone seemed to silence the noise. We stepped inside. The ballroom shimmered with crystal light and the hum of conversation. Every powerful person in Chicago seemed to be there. Executives, doctors, politicians. But when Adrian entered, the room subtly shifted. People made space. "Everyone's staring," I whispered. "Let them," he replied, smiling. "You belong here as much as anyone." And for the first time, I almost believed him. Dinner was elegant, conversation easy. Adrian introduced me to researchers and investors, never once as a patient, only as someone he respected. Every time his hand brushed mine, my heart remembered what it was to feel alive. Then, just as dessert arrived, a voice broke the spell. "Dr. Vaughn, Margaret." I turned, my stomach tightening. Clara, stunning in a gold gown that screamed ambition, glided toward us, Ethan in tow. "Well," she said with a perfectly polished smile, "what a coincidence running into you both here." Adrian's tone was cordial but cool. "Mrs. Hale. Mr. Hale." Clara clasped her hands together. "Dr. Vaughn, I was hoping to follow up on my company's partnership proposal." He raised an eyebrow. "Ah, the Luminar pitch. Yes, I'm familiar. But I make it a point not to discuss business during events that celebrate humanity, not profit." Her smile flickered. Of course. It's just, since you and Margaret are close, I thought perhaps..." He cut her off gently. "My relationship with Margaret is personal, not professional." The words landed like thunder. Around us, a few nearby conversations paused. Clara's composure cracked just slightly, her gaze darting between us. Ethan, ever the peacemaker, forced a laugh. "Mom, we didn't realize things were so serious." I met his eyes. Neither did I, but maybe serious isn't a bad thing. Clara's voice dropped low, cold beneath her sweetness. "I hope you know what you're doing. He has a reputation. Powerful men always do." Adrian looked directly at her, unflinching. "And some people have reputations for using others. I prefer not to mix the two." A collective hush rippled through those within earshot. Clara's face flushed crimson. She muttered something about needing to make a call and stormed off, Ethan following awkwardly behind her. Adrian turned to me, his expression softening. "I'm sorry you had to endure that." I smiled, faintly. "Don't be. You didn't expose her. She exposed herself." For the first time in years, I felt free. When the orchestra began to play a waltz, Adrian extended his hand. "May I?" I hesitated. "You do realize my cardiologist said light exercise only?" He grinned. "Lucky for us, I happen to be a cardiologist." The crowd blurred away as he drew me close. We moved slowly, the world shrinking until it was just us and the rhythm of the music. "I have a confession," he murmured near my ear. "When I posted that photo of us after your surgery, I wasn't thinking about publicity or headlines. I just wanted people to see someone who reminded me why I do what I do." I swallowed hard. "And what did you see?" He met my eyes, steady, sincere, a woman who thought her story was over, when it's only beginning. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes. Not from sadness, but something deeper. Gratitude. Renewal. As the song ended, applause filled the room. Cameras flashed again, catching a moment that felt timeless. A billionaire doctor and a silver-haired widow smiling like two people who had finally found home. Later, as we stepped outside into the cool night, Adrian turned to me. "Your family will come around, you know. Maybe not right away, but they will. I'm not sure that matters anymore," I said softly. "For once, I'm living for me." He smiled. "Then let me live a little for you too." Before I could respond, he leaned in and kissed me. Gently, tenderly, with the care of a man who understood fragile hearts better than anyone alive. And in that single moment, beneath the city lights, everything, the years of loneliness, the neglect, the quiet ache, finally melted away. When we pulled apart, I was smiling. "You do realize," I said, "my family will lose their minds when they see tomorrow's headlines." He laughed. "Let them. Maybe the world needs a reminder that second chances don't care about age." As the car door opened and I stepped in beside him, the flashbulbs erupted again. But this time, I didn't shy away. Because I wasn't just someone's mother or patient anymore. I was Margaret Hale, survivor, woman, heart rebuilt in more ways than one. And as the roles glided into the night, I knew this wasn't an ending at all. It was the beautiful beginning of everything I'd forgotten to dream about.